final speaker has got an amazing history he's a clinical hypnotherapist. He is also highly in demand, traveling all over the world with his speaking. And he talks about removing negative thoughts. He's IEMT trained as well to a very high level, and some of you might know him from interesting talks. So for a while, and I believe still the platform still exists, but not in the same way anymore, he brought together some of the brightest lights and the brightest minds all over the UK on this platform, which to his credit has got so many followers. It's one of the biggest meet-up groups of personal development on there. So he's done some incredible things. I can't wait to hear his story. Please welcome to the stage, Matt Kendall.
Too long. Are we ready?
Yeah!
That's actually more positive than I'm expecting, because I'm not a very positive person, so well done everybody. Okay, I'm really not. I'm going to ruin your life for 10 minutes by telling you how bad it is. And then we'll make it less bad. Now some people do know me, they're the ones that are laughing. The ones who don't know me, yeah, this is the way it's going to go. So, first of all, I'm going to show you how you can remove negative memories. Is our life defined by our past? Yes, it is. Good evening, thank you. No, but your life is defined by what you've been through. However, it doesn't mean your future has to be. Because where you are right now in life, and it doesn't matter what you've been through, I've been a therapist for a long time. I've heard every kind of story possible. I've dealt with a lot of rapes, people who've witnessed murders, car crashes, like you wouldn't believe. Where you are in life right now might not be your fault. However, where you now go is your responsibility. And what happens, people do not take on this responsibility. They blame everybody else. They blame their abuser, they blame society, they blame Brexit, like it's a real thing, right? They blame everything else apart from themselves. Now, it's not necessarily blaming yourselves, but if you don't take control of your life, you'll never create real change. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So once you go, okay, look, I may have had a bad past, from now on, I'm going to be more fabulous. So we're going to work out why. We're going to work out what's actually causing this. So the thing is, we record negative memories much stronger than we record positives. And the reason is that your brain is there to keep you alive and away from danger. So when you experience something negative, your brain will remember this. And then what happens, you will look for corroborating data, you will look for things to support this. And this will begin to create a basic belief system. So if somebody tells you that you're ugly when you're really young, you become aware of this now. You're looking for information to match this, because our brain does this really annoying thing. It tries to create meaning out of things, where meaning has no real place in most of life. It's just a lot of random stuff. So when we start to become aware of these issues, these belief systems, we start to look for more of it. And then it becomes a firm belief system. When we have this belief system, people call them self-limiting beliefs a lot of the time, it's a collection of memories which turn into behaviour. We know we want to do something in the present, but when we disrupt this belief system, it throws out anxiety, avoidance. We have what's called cognitive dissonance, where you have two opposing thoughts. So for example, it could be like, I want to go speak to that person, but you may have had past negative experiences, either directly or indirectly. So a direct experience is where you've gone to speak to somebody and it's not gone well. An indirect experience is seeing somebody else do it. So a lot of your fears and phobias are not because of what's happened to you, it's what's happened by you. A classic example is people having spider phobias from their parents. So they've just been told about how bad spiders are. They've actually never had a negative experience, they've just been told about how bad spiders actually are. So what happens when you now, in the present, when you actually want to go and speak to somebody, you will have this rush of emotion that will stop you. And we try to make meaning of it, we try to make ourselves feel better. Well, they didn't look very interesting anyway. They probably weren't my type. Another classic example is going for a promotion. You want to go for a promotion, you know you can do the job, and you're going to go for it, your friends are saying you should go for that, and you hit this wall of emotion and anxiety, and you don't go for it, and you justify it by going, well, I didn't want the extra hours, I didn't want the extra responsibility. So we have all this negative stuff that's going on. And along comes the self-development industry, full of its law of attraction, and I promised somebody I won't swear tonight, right? So the law. I'll just mention one little thing. I will not. I know I've only got 10 minutes, but Google the word abundance, right? Google the word abundance, and you will see. Oh, this is something else as well. Somebody put on Facebook the other day, do you want to achieve unlimited abundance? Unlimited abundance? What? All right, okay. What's limited abundance? Right. Anyway, calm down. Anyway, if you type in abundance, you know what you see? Loads of people standing in a field like this. I'm not joking. Google abundance, go on image search, hundreds of people like this. Now, if I drive past somebody in a field standing like this, I'm not going to think to myself, wow, they live a fulfilled, passionate life full of abundance. I'm going to think they're mentally ill or trying to be a scarecrow. So we are sold this big, fluffy dream of greatness, but unfortunately, it's born out of insecurity. Now, when I work with clients, I can say, look, I can make your life less bad. But no, they want to feel great because they've read a book about it, because they watched Oprah. They want to live a life of passion or something. The thing is, what happens here, when you feel really bad, your natural instinct is to feel great. And there's lots of courses to do that. You can even walk on some hot coals in a hotel car park, like that might help. And so you do these things, seriously. Let me do 2 hours, Kirsten. Let me do, so you go up, but the thing is, the higher you go, the further you will actually drop down. And there's always another course, there's always something else to bring you all the way up and all the way down. We're trying to avoid these negative feelings, and we do that by one of the great things is affirmations, by lying to yourself in the mirror, which I've never really understood. Fake it till you make it. No, don't do that. You don't stand in the mirror in the morning, I'm a confident, happy person. Who says that, right? I'm a confident, happy person. I don't say that. In the morning I go, that's it. I do not say anything to the mirror. Seriously. But what happens is that when you feel really insecure, you think that by putting these big, happy feelings on things will make you feel great. And it will do for a little bit. It will do for that weekend hotel experience. But then when you come back, it's the suntan effect. You'll feel okay for a couple of days and then you're back where you started. This creates a very bipolar way of living, a very bipolar way of existing. And so that's why, on a more serious note, a lot of self-development stuff can often turn into drug abuse, to get that high once again. I've worked with so many people. I've worked behind the scenes and I've seen how it works. It's all about the dollars. It's all about the dollars. When you put happy feelings, big super happy feelings, onto something negative, you don't equalize it out. Instead, you're creating a time bomb. It festers, it festers, it festers. It doesn't go, and it will come out in some way later on. So my way of working with people is going into the problem and just leveling it out. Instead of going like this, we want to go there. That's it. It's not glamorous. It doesn't sell. Right? I'm not Tony Robbins. You're not in peak state all the time. Also, being in that state all the time, right? It's not good for you. It's not good for you to be motivated like that. A really motivated person is just getting on with their work. That's it. That's a motivated person. Not peak state all the time. No, it's bad for you. Bad blood pressure, okay? But again, we're sold this because when we feel negative, we have to have these big, powerful feelings to smash through these problems. So I've been working as a therapist for a long time. I don't know how I get away with it, to be perfectly honest. It's quite cathartic for me. And really, the therapy with me is fun. And a few years ago, it was about 8 or 9 years ago, I was speaking to one of my friends online, and he said, do you want to come down to Brighton? It sounds wrong, that, but he goes, do you want to come down to Brighton? We can do some work on each other. Again, don't let your imagination run wild. Don't let your imagination. And he said to me, look, do you want to come to a workshop by a guy called Andrew Austin? All right, so I googled him, Andrew Austin. Ooh, some stuff came up. And I was like, yeah, okay. I said, what's it about? He goes, well, he's come up with this technique where he believes that you can remove negative memories and pull you out of negative experiences. I was like, interesting. I'll give this a go. So I went along to this workshop, and it was a tiny, tiny little place in Rustington or something like that down south, and on the south coast. And we all got into pairs, and he goes, right, I want you to think of a negative memory. And then he moved my eyes, or somebody else moved my eyes. It was that moment I realised what could be possible. It wasn't putting happy feelings, it wasn't making me feel great, I wasn't doing a mantra, I wasn't hugging anyone, David. All I was, I took a feeling that was bad, and we went to what I believed to be the best possible therapeutic outcome. It went from bad to meh. Now, I genuinely believe this. I genuinely believe the best way to feel about negative stuff is meh. That it just doesn't affect me. Think of it like a train. If you've got a normal train, the energy to get that train started and moving is huge. Why? Because there's friction, you've got the rails, you've got the wheels. IEMT works in a way like a train, but it's more like the bullet train in Japan. It works on magnets, it levitates it slightly. So you put some effort in and it goes much, much further, because you're not going up against the resistance anymore. I have found that when working with trauma, or when working with negative memories, it's like a splinter. When you get a splinter, it hurts. And when you pull it out, it hurts, but you get relief. The time in between is the problem, okay? Now, when you get a splinter, you become aware of it. If you don't take it out, you become to guard it. Eventually, it will change your behaviour. Just by simply removing it, it will get better. Now, if I remove something, if I remove that splinter or that negative memory, and I say to you later on, how's your finger? That's fine. That's what we're looking for, because that kind of level of change is sustainable. I've always been, how's your finger? Oh, my finger's great. I've done loads of great stuff, okay? I nearly went wrong with that analogy, right? Jesus Christ. Because again, these positive feelings are not sustainable in the real world. We're not in California, right? No, everything's too positive. We're in London. We can't deal with that level of positivity. What we need is a tool that we can actually use. So if it's okay, I'd like to show you how you can start to remove your own negative memories. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
And don't pick something positive. I had this before. Somebody picked their 21st and then they forgot it. And I was like, well, why did you do that? So you want to work on a memory that when you close your eyes, you can see it and you can feel it. And I then want you to give it a label. Just one or two words, like the bathroom, Steve's house, the car, whatever it is. Because when you're working with somebody, we are not going into any form of content. This is not group therapy. If somebody starts telling you the content of the memory, take your finger, put it on their lips and go, shh, that says no. Okay? So no content of the memory. So you just got 30 seconds. I just want you to think of a memory you want to work on now. You're going to ask them, is it a picture or is it a movie? Are you seeing it like you are there or like you are watching it? How clear and in focus is that memory? And out of 10, how strong is the emotion as you're experiencing it now? So all I want you to do is I just want to work with somebody else and keep a note of what that is for the second part. Any questions? You have 90 seconds either way, go. Now IEMT works when two factors are present. When somebody's holding the memory and you're moving their eyes. Okay, when you're holding their memory, when they're holding the memory and you're moving their eyes. Essentially, what we believe is happening here is what's called bilateral stimulation. We haven't had this confirmed. We are doing research on this using scanners and stuff. Hopefully it's going to be next year. We are literally getting both hemispheres of the brain to communicate together. The right hemisphere is the long-term memory and emotion. On the right hemisphere, you have the here and now. So what we're essentially trying to do is get you to go back to that memory and observe it from who you are now. That's the technical bit. What it looks like is this. Right, I actually did that for comic effect, but not work. So what we're going to do, you want to line up with the bridge of their nose about a foot and a half. You're going to get them to close their eyes, really hold that memory, and then we're going to move them through the axis of 6 times on each direction. So we're going to go from left to right, 6 times. Now, it doesn't look, we're going to argue, like, that is 1 2. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't really matter for today, but I class that as 1. So you go 1, 2, and you do 6 times. You keep telling them to hold on to that memory. You're then going to go to the diagonals and go through the diagonals, getting them to hold on to that memory, and then the other diagonals, challenging them to hold on to that memory. Do it 6 times either way. And then give them a minute to refocus, and then ask them what the memory is now like when they access it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you're going to get them to hold the memory, challenge the memory, and they'll go, it's confusing. Go, I know. Right? and then make sure they're following your finger. You have to get them following your finger. Make sure their head stays still, because that is not moving somebody's eyes. That is moving somebody's head. Okay, so they have to keep their head still, move their eyes while holding that memory. Then you ask them, what's the memory now like when you access it now? And then you go the other way. So, with your eyes closed, just raise your hand and keep it raised if that memory is now just harder to get. It seems further away in both space and time. The quality is lower. It goes from being subjective, like you're there, to objective, like you're seeing it. And the actual strength of that memory, numbers of standard units determined up to 10, has lowered, the actual numbers lowered. Just keep your hands in the air and open your eyes and just look around the room. That's what we call a fabulous result. So the reason why I like this, the reason why I love this, is that I used to specialise in guys who've been sexually abused. Now they don't want to talk about the problem, and neither do I. It's true, I don't want it to ruin my day. But they still need to have help. They still want to have help. But they often feel embarrassed talking about what it is. But using this technique, using IEMT, you do not talk about the content. You're not doing therapy, you're not trying to understand something. But what you'll often find with this technique, if you think about that memory now, not only will it feel different, you sometimes get a different meaning and a different understanding from it. Because what we're using here is age progression. You're seeing it from who you are today, not the person who it happened to. Does that make sense? Have fun?
Yeah.
So like I say, I'm speaking tomorrow night in Sheffield if you're in the area. If you want to follow me on social media, that is fun on my social media. Just Matt Kendall, just Google me, I'm everywhere. Apart from the guy who died and there's a trust fund for, that's not me. Right, so if you find me on YouTube, I do lots of videos. I train therapists in this. I think every therapist who's working should have this in their toolkit. This is a tiny bit from a whole 2-day training. Next year I'm going to be doing more and more certifications because I think this is a really, really interesting way of working with people. I think the results you can get from this are just astounding. You've probably experienced, and this is by somebody who's not trained, by doing it probably badly, and you've already experienced what that's like. So when I had my first experience of this, I was like, this is something different. And I've wanted to learn so much about it. I've had thousands of hours of experience with it. And I just think it's just an incredible way of working, especially when the client does not want to talk about the problem. They've done enough talking. They just want it to now change. So yes, we do live our lives based on what we've been through. By using tools like IEMT, you can now change this because you project your future through your past. But if you can start to minimize these problems, you can actually move forward without all this anxiety. You can actually start to do these things. You can go speak to that girl, that guy. You can go for that job interview. You can go in that elevator. You can do that thing without all this anxiety. Therapy and change work can be much faster than you can ever imagine. And it's available, and I hope you use this. Please tell people about this. Shay, thank you very much for letting me come down. Merry Christmas.